Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger of Virginia. She served as a CIA case officer before running for Congress and was also inside the House chamber on the day of the January 6th attack. Congresswoman, thank you so much for getting up early with us. I was just hoping to start with your reflections as you watched, along with all of us, the new video, the new pieces of evidence that were laid out in this trial, and how you think it may or may not impact your Senate colleagues.
Well, watching the evidence that was presented was a pretty interesting experience because I had lived so much of it in the firsthand way. So as they were piecing together the timeline, I think that was the most extraordinary part of it all for me. I had been in the chamber when the speaker was evacuated out. I had been in the House chamber when they told us to put on our gas masks. I had been there when we started slamming doors shut and locking them down. I was there when they evacuated out the folks who were on the floor, and those of us in the gallery still were trying to figure out how we would get out. We were there when there was screaming, there was yelling. The police officers were barricading up the doors with tables and benches when the gunshot went off. And I was there when colleagues were praying and crying and people were calling family members. And so to watch that timeline really come together was pretty extraordinary. And some of the videos that were played throughout the trial, I thought were, I think gave a clear perception to the American people just how terrible that day was. And I think what's most notable for me, when we were in the House gallery, that was the same time we were still there when the men with flexi-cuffs were in the Senate gallery, right? So just even thinking about the fact that I'm a former federal agent in addition to being a former CIA officer, right? We had flexi-cuffs. You have flexi-cuffs to detain people. And so the idea that they were there in the Senate, they had already broken into the Senate when we were still unable to evacuate out of the House. If they had come in the other door, would they have come into the gallery? And they didn't get to us. And they didn't get to us because there were lines of Capitol police officers and later Metropolitan police officers who fought to keep people safe and save lives. And they did.
They sure did. And Congresswoman, I'm glad you pointed out that you were also a federal agent. You've been in these situations. You understand how law enforcement officials will operate in some of these kinds of cases. You understand how investigations proceed. And the thing that we're looking at in this trial, of course, is what's the connection between Donald Trump's words and actions and what happened to you and all of your colleagues on January 6th. What do you think are the most important pieces of that puzzle right now?
I think that the impeachment managers have really laid out a clear time frame, right, where we see an individual, the president of the United States, who continues to perpetuate a lie that an election was stolen, a lie that people needed to stand up and stop the steal, right? Stealing is an aggressive criminal act. And so he was calling to people to stop that steal. He was promising people that January 6th would be wild. He was compelling people to stand up and fight or you won't have a country left. And when you juxtapose those words with the actions of people responding to them and the video of people on megaphones reading his tweets as though he was communicating
so organized
with them. Yeah. The videos, the ways, there's a couple videos where you can see that people were kind of scouting out doors, and there's some where people run, they see that a door might be more vulnerable. Many of the doors are heavy wooden doors. Some of them are just glass. And there's the surveillance videos where people are motioning, come to this door. Clearly, they were trying to, permeate throughout the Capitol, they were screaming, hang Mike Pence. They were beating police officers. And so, when you look at the timeline, it's just horrific. And then coupling that with when he had the chance to say, stop. Right? Stop this. He didn't, and he didn't, and he didn't, and he didn't. And that to me is just the most horrifying reality of this all.
For hours. Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, I also just want to take a minute to note you were with my colleague Haley Talbot in that gallery, and you took personal responsibility to look out for her safety, and we are just incredibly grateful that you did that. And I really appreciate you being up here this morning with us and sharing what was a very emotional and difficult day. So thank you.
Casey, if I can say thank you, it's because of reporters and journalists like Haley and so many of your colleagues in media that we have a really clear understanding, incredibly moving photos, and a really incredible timeline, because during all of that horror, they continued to do the job.
We really appreciate it. Thank you, Congresswoman.